Hello friends, today we will learn about Neisseria and Moraxilla. Here we'll study about Neisseria meningitis. Under this we'll study about morphology, culture, biochemical reactions, antigenic structure, resistance, pathogenesis, epidemiology, laboratory diagnosis, treatment, prophylaxis, Neisseria gonorrhoeae. Under this, we will study about morphology, culture, biochemical reactions, antigenic structure, resistance, pathogenesis, epidemiology, laboratory diagnosis, treatment, prophylaxis. Now come to non-gonococcal urethritis. Under this, we will study about causative agents, treatment, commensal Neisseria. Next, we will study about commensal Neisseria, Moraxilla, Qatar Halis. Under this, we'll study about morphology, culture, biochemical reactions, pathogenesis. Next, we'll study about Moraxilla lucunata. Under this, we'll study about morphology, culture, biochemical reactions, pathogenesis, and treatment. Now, let's begin. The genus Neisseria consists of gram-negative aerobic, oxidase positive, non-motile diplococci. They may be classified into pathogenic and non-pathogenic. The pathogenic species are N. meningitis and N. gonorrhoeae. The non-pathogenic species include N. flavaceans, N. sicca, N. subflava, and other species. Now, let's study about Neisseria meningitis, or we can say meningococcus. Meningococcus was first isolated by the scientist named Weisselbaum in 1887 from the spinal fluid of a patient. Now come to morphology. They are gram-negative, spiral or oval cocci, 0.6 to 0.8 microgram in size, arranged in pairs with the adjacent sides, flattened. They are non-motile. The cocci are generally intracellular when isolated from lesions. Now come to culture. They do not grow on ordinary media but have exacting growth requirements. Growth occurs on media enriched with blood or serum. These substances promote growth by neutralizing certain inhibitory substances found in culture media rather than by providing additional nutrients. Blood agar, chocolate agar, and Muller-Hinton agar are commonly used media. Thayer Martin medium with antibiotics, colistin, nystatin, and trimethoprim, and New York City medium are selective media used for its isolation. They are strict aerobes and cannot grow anaerobically. The optimum temperature and pH for growth are 35 to 36 degrees centigrade and 7.4 to 7.4 to 7.6 respectively. A moist environment with 5 to 10% carbon dioxide is must for growth to occur. On solid media, the colonies are small, round, convex, gray, translucent, and with entire edge. The colonies are butyrous in consistency and easily emulsifiable. In liquid media, it produces a granular turbidity. Now, let's know about biochemical reactions. Meningitis is catalase and oxidase positive. The prompt oxidase reaction helps to identify Neisseria in mixed cultures. Glucose and maltose are fermented with acid production but no gas. That means gonococci ferment glucose but not maltose. They do not ferment galactose or sucrose. Indole and hydrogen sulfide are not produced and nitrates are not reduced. Now come to oxidase test. When freshly prepared oxidase reagent, that is 1% tetramethyl paraphenylene diamine hydrochloride is poured on the culture plate, Neisseria colonies become deep purple. These colonies can be picked up for subcultures immediately as the organism dies on prolonged exposure to the reagent. The test may also be performed by rubbing bacterial growth with a loop on a filter paper strip moistened with the oxidase agent. A deep purple color is a positive reaction. Now come to antigenic structure. N meningitis has been divided into 13 serogroups on the basis of immunological specificity of the capsular polysaccharide. These serogroups are A, B, C, D, X, Y, Z. W135, 29E, H, I, K and L. Groups A, B and C are the most important. Groups 29E, W135 and Y also frequently cause meningitis. These six groups A, B, C, 29E, W135 and Y are responsible for the large majority of meningitis. Now come to resistant. These are very delicate organisms being highly susceptible to heat, desiccation and to disinfectants. They are susceptible to penicillin, ampicillin, chloramphenicol, macrolides and ciprofloxacin. Strains resistant to penicillin have now been reported from several countries. Now come to pathogenesis. N meningitis causes pyogenic meningitis in all ages but is most common in children and young adults. The other common bacterial agents responsible for pyogenic meningitis include H. influenza and Streptococcus pneumoniae. Now come to meningococci. Meningococci are strict human pathogens. The infection is acquired by droplet spread via the carriers and the cases. Human nasopharynx is the reservoir of N meningitis. The incubation period of the disease is about 3 days. The spread of cocci from the nasopharynx to the meninges is controversial. The organism may spread along the perineural sheath of the olfactory nerves through the cribriform plate to the subarachnoid space or through the blood stream. Meningococemia presents as acute fever with petechial rash. If you develop fulminant meningococemia, that is Waterhouse Friderichsen syndrome, characterized by shock, disseminated intravascular coagulation and multi-system failure. It is usually a fatal condition. Deficiency of complement components, that is C5 to C9, favors the meningococcal infections. Bacterial endotoxin appears to play the pathogenic role. The vascular endothelium is sensitive to the endotoxin. All the major inflammatory cascade systems as well as cytokines are triggered. Now come to epidemiology. The humans are the only reservoir of the meningococcus. Asymptomatic nasopharyngeal carriers serve to infect their contacts. Transmission is by airborne droplets or less often by fomites. The carrier rate is about 5 to 10%, which rises during epidemics. Meningitis is more common on children below the age of 5 years and in males. Epidemic usually occurs in overcrowded area. Serogroup A is usually associated with epidemics. Serogroup B causes both epidemics and outbreaks, while serogroup C is associated mostly with localized outbreaks. Group A, meningococcus affected Delhi during epidemic in early 1985. Now come to laboratory diagnosis. First is specimen. We need CSF, blood, petechial lesson specimen, nasopharyngeal swab, especially to detect carriers. Now come to collection and transport. Collection of specimen is done under sterile conditions by lumbar puncture for CSF and by venipuncture for blood. Blood is injected into blood culture bottles through the hole in the bottle cap. Nasopharyngeal specimen is collected by using a sterile swab. All the specimens must be transported immediately. CSF should never be refrigerated as H. influenza may die at the cold temperature. The nasopharyngeal swab should be held in a transport medium until it is inoculated on a culture medium. Now come to direct microscopy and antigen detection. CSF is divided into three portions. One portion is centrifuged and smear is prepared from the deposit of gram staining. Meningococci are seen as gram-negative diplococci present mainly inside polymorphs but may also be present extracellularly. A large number of pus cells are also seen. The supernatant fluid may be used for detection of meningococcal antigen by rapid tests such as counter-current immunoelectrophoresis, coagulation, or latex agglutination test. Antigen detection is useful when organisms are scanty. The second portion of the CSF is used for direct culture, while the third portion of the CSF is incubated overnight after adding an equal volume of glucose broth and then subcultured on blood agar or chocolate agar. Now come to culture. CSF. First is CSF. Centrifuged deposit is inoculated on blood agar or chocolate agar. The plate is incubated at 35 to 36 degrees centigrade under 5 to 10% carbon dioxide. Colonies appear after 18 to 24 hours. These are identified by colony morphology, gram staining, and biochemical reactions. Now come to blood. Blood culture is often positive in meningococcism and in early cases of meningitis. Blood culture bottles are incubated at 35 to 36 degrees centigrade for 24 hours. Subcultures are made from these broths onto blood agar and chocolate agar. These plates are again incubated at 35 to 36 degrees centigrade under 5 to 10% carbon dioxide for 18 to 24 hours. Identification of organisms is done by colony morphology, gram staining, and biochemical reactions. Blood culture should be incubated for 4 to 7 days with daily subcultures. Now come to other specimens. Other specimens that like petechial lesions, nasopharyngeal swab, autopsy specimens are inoculated on blood agar and chocolate agar and are processed in similar way as described for CSF. Specimens may be collected from the meninges, lateral ventricles or brain and spinal cord. In case of autopsy, meningococci may die if specimens are not collected within 12 hours of the death of the patient. Now come to colony morphology and gram staining. On solid media, colonies are small, round, convex, grey, translucent and with entire edges. Smear is prepared from the suspected colony and gram staining is done. On gram staining, they are gram negative, spherical or oval cocci, that is 0.6 to 0.8 micrometer in size, arranged in pairs with the adjacent sides flattened. Now come to biochemical reactions. N meningitis is catalase and oxidase form positive. Glucose and maltose are fermented with acid production but no gas. Now come to slide agglutination. Direct slide agglutination of the organism may be done with specific antisera. Now come to serological diagnosis. This may be attempted in chronic meningococcal septicemia where no organism has been isolated. Specific antibodies to capsular polysaccharide may be demonstrated by hemagglutination test. Polymerase chain reaction. Now come to polymerase chain reaction insert PCR. Meningococcal DNA in CSF or blood can be amplified and then detected. It is a rapid method. Come to treatment. Let's know about the treatment. Meningococci are uniformly sensitive to penicillin. Chloramphenicol is used in persons allergic to penicillin. Penicillin G in high doses is given intravenously or intrathecally if necessary. Cefotaxime or ceftriaxone are as effective as chloramphenicol and the possibility of blood dyscrasia may be avoided. Now come to J prophylaxis. Come to under this we will study about chromophylaxis and immunophylaxis. First is chromophylaxis. It is indicated for close contacts of patients for eliminating the bacteria from nasopharynx. Rifampicillin or ciprofloxacin are recommended. Now come to let's know about immunoprophylaxis. Meningococcal vaccines prepared from polysaccharides of serogroups A, C, W135 and Y are available. Single dose is given intramuscularly. The protection is group specific and lasts for at least 3 years but does not prevent meningococcal carriers. No vaccine is available against group B meningococci because capsular polysaccharide of this group is a poor immunogen. Now come to Neisseria gonorrhoeae or otherwise known as gonococcus. N. gonorrhoeae causes the sexually transmitted diseases gonorrhea. The organism was first described by the Neisser in 1879 in gonorrheal pus. N. gonorrhea and N. meningitis are closely related and have 70% DNA homology. Now come to morphology. They are gram-negative oval cocci arranged in pairs with adjacent sides concave in smear from purulent material. They are intracellular within polymorphs, some cells containing as many as 100 cocci. Now come to gonorrhococci. Gonorrhococci pili on their surface. These pili facilitates adhesion of cocci to host cells and promote virulence by resisting phagocytosis. Pili of different strains are antigenically different. Pileated gonorrhococci agglutinate human erythrocytes and the hemagglutination is not inhibited by mannose. Now come to culture. This organism is more difficult to grow than N. meningitis. They are aerobic but may grow anaerobically as well. They grow best at a temperature of 35 to 36 degrees centigrade in presence of 5 to 10% carbon dioxide and pH 7.2 to 7.6. They require an enriched medium like chocolate agar for their growth. A popular selective medium is the Thayer-Martin medium with antibiotics which inhibits most contaminated including commensal Neisseria. They also grow well on Muller-Hinton agar. Now come to colony morphology. Colonies are small, round, grey, translucent, convex with finely granular surface. They are easily emulsifiable. N. gonorrhoeae produces four types of colonies: T1, T2, T3 and T4. Type 1 and 2 produce small brown colonies and possess pili. These are auto-agglutinable and virulent stain. Type 3 and 4 form larger granular non-pigmented colonies and are non-pileated. They form smooth suspensions and are virulent. On repeated subcultures, T1 and T2 change to T3 and T4 morphology, and T1 and T2 are also known as P plus and P plus plus respectively, while T3 and T4 are named as P minus. Now come to biochemical reactions. N. gonorrhoeae is oxidase positive. Gonococci ferment glucose with acid production only and not maltose. Now come to antigenic structure. And the antigenic structure is complex. The surface structure of N. gonorrhoeae include capsule pili like this. We will study one by one. First is capsule. It is polyphosphate and not polysaccharide. Capsule is most evident in freshly isolated gonococci. It is loosely associated with cell surface. The capsule inhibits phagocytosis. Presence of capsule and its role requires further elucidation. Now come to pili. These are hair-like structures extending from the surface. The pileated organisms produce altered appearance of colonies on culture. Pili enhances attachment of the organism to host cells and resist to phagocytosis. They act as virulence factor. They are made of pillin proteins. These pillin proteins are antigenically different in almost all stains, and a single stain can produce several antigenically distinct pillins. Now come to lipopolysaccharide, in short LPS. Toxicity in gonorrhea is largely due to the endotoxic effects of these components. Now come to protein. The outer membrane antigen are the porins. Now come to protein 1, pore. It forms pores on surface. Each stain of gonococcus express one type of protein 1. It helps in serotyping of gonococci. There are two variants of protein 1 named IA, IB. Any one stain carries either IA and IB but not both. 24 serovars of type IA and 32 serovars of type IB have been demonstrated. Now come to protein 2, OPA. In short, OPA. One part of protein 2 is in outer membrane and the rest is exposed on the surface of bacteria. This protein takes part in adhesion of bacterium and its attachment to host cell. Type 2 protein is present in those stains which form opaque colonies. Therefore, it is also called the opacity associated protein. In short, OPA. Now come to protein 3. It is associated with protein 1 in the formation of pores on the cell surface and hence plays a role in the exchange of molecules across the outer membrane. Now come to other proteins. IgA1 protease produced by gonococci as well as meningococci splites and inactivates IgA, which plays a major role in mucosal defense. Two other proteins, H8 and iron binding protein, are described, but their role in pathogenicity is not known. Now come to resistance. The gonococcus is a very delicate organism. It is strict parasite and dies rapidly outside the human host in 1 to 2 hours in exudate and in 3 to 4 days in culture. It survives at 35 degrees centigrade if kept in slant cultures under sterile paraffin oil. Cultures may also be stored for years if frozen quickly kept at minus 70 degrees centigrade. Gonococi are readily killed by heat drying and antiseptics. Formerly, they were highly susceptible to sulfonamides and penicillin but have steadily developed resistance to many antibiotics. PPNG, penicillinase producing Neisseria gonorrhoeae strains are resistant to penicillin due to production of B lactamase enzyme by these strains. Now come to pathogenesis. Gonorrhea. It is a sexually transmitted disease involving urethra in both sexes, but in females, the endocervix is the primary site of infection. The incubation period is 2 to 8 days. The disease is an acute urethritis characterized by purulent urethral discharge. Asymptomatically, Asymptomatic infection is common in women. In males, the acute urethritis may extend to the prostate, testes, seminal vesicles, and epididymis. If untreated, it may lead to fibrosis and stricture. In females, the primary infection may spread from urethra and cervix to Bartholin's glands, uterus, fallopian tubes, ovaries, and may cause pelvic inflammatory disease resulting in sterility. Occasionally, hematogenous spread of bacteria may lead to septicemia, endocarditis, or acute purulent arthritis. Now come to ophthalmia. Neonatorum. It is a non-venereal gonococcal conjunctivitis in the newborn through infected birth canal. Now come to gonococcal vulvovaginitis. In adult women, the vagina usually is resistant to gonococcal infection because of the acidic pH of the vaginal secretions, but vulvovaginitis can occur in the prepubertal girls. Now come to other infections. Sometimes the disease may involve rectum or oropharynx following rectal intercourse or by orogenital contact respectively. Now come to epidemiology. Gonorrhea is an exclusively human disease. In the only source of infection is the human carrier or less often a patient. Asymptomatically, infection in women makes them a reservoir to spread infection among their male contacts. The mode of infection is almost exclusively venereal. Ophthalmia neonatorum is a non-venereal gonococcal infection. Now come to laboratory diagnosis. The diagnosis is readily made in acute stage as urethral discharge contains large number of gonococci. It is difficult to detect gonococci from chronic cases or from patients with metastatic lesions such as arthritis. Now come to specimen. Urethral discharge and cervical discharge are collected in acute urethritis. The meatus is first cleaned with a gauze soaked in saline. A sample of the urethral discharge is then collected with a platinum loop or by a sterile swab. In women, cervical swab is collected in addition to urethral discharge. High vaginal swabs are not satisfactory. In chronic urethritis, urethral discharge is observed only in few cases. In these cases, some exudate obtained after prostatic massage or morning drop of secretion may be examined. Centrifuged deposits of urine is examined in cases where no urethral discharge is available. Now come to transport. All the specimens should be transported and processed immediately. If this is not possible, specimens should be collected with charcoal coated swabs and transported to the laboratory in Stewart's transport medium. Now come to direct microscopy. Gram staining of smear provides a presumptive evidence of gonorrhea in men. Gram-negative intracellular diplococci are found in smear of at least 95% cases of acute gonococcal urethritis in males. In females, diagnosis of gonorrhea by smear examination is unreliable as some of the normal genital flora have similar morphology. Fluorescent antibody tests are more sensitive and specific method for diagnosis by microscopic, especially in females. Now come to culture. The specimens should be inoculated directly on preheated plates immediately on collection. Chocolate agar is used for the culture of the specimens and incubated at 35 degrees centigrade to 36 degrees centigrade under 5 to 10% carbon dioxide for 48 hours. In chronic cases where mixed infection is usual and in lesions like proctitis, selective medium such as Thier-Martin medium is used. Typical translucent colonies appear on culture medium. Now come to colony morphology and gram staining. On solid medium, colonies are small, round, grey, translucent, convex with finely granular surface. They are easily emulsifiable. Smear is made from the colony and gram staining is done. Gonococci are gram-negative cocci arranged in pairs with adjacent sides concave. Now come to biochemical reactions. They are oxidase positive. They ferment glucose with acid only. They do not ferment maltose unlike meningococci. Serology. Now come to serology. It may not be possible to isolate gonococci in culture from some chronic cases or from some patients with metastatic lesions such as arthritis. Serological test may be of value in such cases. Complement fixation test, immunofluorescence and ELISA test have been used to detect antibodies. However, no serological test has been found useful for routine diagnostic purposes. Now come to treatment. The organism is sensitive to large doses of penicillin or deoxycycline. Two types of penicillin resistant have been observed. First is low level resistant, that is bacteria. The bacteria strains are sensitive to high concentrations of penicillin and are not related to beta lactamase production. The resistance is chromosomally determined. This type of resistance was first recognized in 1957 and is relatively common. Now come to high level resistance. It is due to production of enzyme beta lactamase by the bacteria and is plasmid coded. In such cases, the strains are totally resistant to penicillin. It is first recognized in 1976. Since then, these penicillinase producing Neisseria gonorrhoeae strains have spread widely. In penicillin resistant gonorrhea, cefotaxime, cepriaxone, ceprofloxacin, tetracycline and spectinomycin are used. Now come to prophylaxis. Control of gonorrhea consists of early detection of cases, tracing of contacts, health, education and other general measures. Vaccination has no role in prophylaxis. Now come to non-gonococcal urethritis. It is a condition of chronic urethritis where gonococci cannot be demonstrated. It is known as non gonococcal urethritis, in short NGU. Now come to causative agents. First is bacterial. Chlamydia trachomatis is the most common. Urea plasma, ureolyticum, Mycoplasma hominis, Gardnerella vaginalis, Acinetobacter, IOP. Now come to viral. Viral means herpes virus, cytomegalovirus. Next is fungal. Fungal is Candida albicans. And protozoan means Trichomonas vaginalis. Now come to treatment. Tetracycline is effective for both Candida trachomatis and ureaplasma ureolyticum infections. Now come to commensal Neisseria. This group of bacteria inhibits the normal respiratory tract. These commensals are differentiated from the pathogenic Neisseria by some methods. Let's know about these methods. First point is commensals can grow on ordinary agar not enriched with blood and serum at 22 degrees centigrade. Now come to second point. Their primary isolation doses isolation does not require presence of carbon dioxide. Third point is these bacteria produce pigmented colonies and ferment a number of carbohydrates. Now come to Moraxilla catarrhalis. Moraxilla catarrhalis. Neisseria catarrhalis was initially classified as Brandhamilia catarrhalis but now reclassified as Moraxilla catarrhalis. It is part of the normal flora of the upper respiratory tract and genital tract. Now come to morphology. First is gram-negative diplococci 0.6 to 1 micrometer oval with adjacent sides flattened. Now come to culture. It grows on ordinary medium like nutrient agar. Next point is biochemical reactions. It does not ferment any carbohydrate but hydrolyzes tributyrene, a test for its identification. It is catalyzed and oxidase positive. Now come to pathogenesis. It causes lower respiratory tract infections, especially in adults with chronic obstructive airway disease. It has also been isolated in cases of otitis media, less commonly in meningitis, endocarditis and sinusitis. Some strains of B. catarrhalis produce beta-lactamase and are resistant to penicillin. Now come to Moraxilla lacunata. In short, it is otherwise known as Morax Axenfeld bacillus. This was formerly included in the genus Haemophilus, but as it does not require X or V factor, it has been separated into the genus Moraxilla. It was described by the scientist named Morax in 1896 and Axenfeld independently from cases of subacute conjunctivitis. The most important species is M. lacunata. Now come to its let's know about the morphology. It is a gram-negative short means 2 to 3 micrometer, ovoid, non-motile bacillus arranged in pairs. Now come to culture. They require blood or serum for growth and are strict aerobe and on Loffoler's serum slope, the colonies from pit or lacuna. Now come to biochemical reactions. It does not ferment sugars and is oxidase and catalase positive. Now come to pathogenesis. Moraxilla are parasitic and their inhibitor includes mucosa of upper respiratory tract, genital tract and conjunctiva. M. lacunata causes catarrhal conjunctivitis. A few species of Moraxilla occasionally give rise to septic arthritis, meningitis, and endocarditis. Now come to treatment. M. lacunata is very sensitive to zinc salts. They are sensitive to penicillin and most other antibiotics. Finally finished. Any questions regarding this? You can ask me in the comment box. I will definitely answer the question, and subscribe my channel to know more updates on biotech topics. And you can tell me which subject I will next do video about the subject. I'll definitely do the video about that subject, about the topic. So you can subscribe my channel. Thank you. Jai Jagannath.